To what you just said, again,
I'm having a hard time listening to what you just said when you're saying
it's so fundamentally flawed, because when you say, "Oh my God," you see yourself as a victim.
You do.
No,
you're selling it as a victim.
No, I'm not. What I'm selling is a reality. What I'm selling is when this is, again, since you did, I guess you couldn't pull it up. Okay.
Oh, he did pull it up.
Okay, the Biden administration, the Federal Housing and Finance Agency, released 47 million appraisal reports to the public for the first time. The appraisals, which were compiled between 2013 and 2021, present evidence of a persistent, widespread practice in the home appraisal industry to give higher values to homes when the occupants are white and devalue them if the owners are people of color.
That's such bullshit. That's such bullshit. You know why?
It's certainly no secret that home ownership is the pathway to building wealth in America. But what's hard in the Bay Area is even harder for some.
And tonight, a look at the growing inequity in home ownership rates in the Bay Area. ABC 7 News race and culture reporter Julian Glover has the story of a Marin couple who almost got cheated out of $500,000.
Paul and his wife Tanisha Austin felt like they captured a slice of the American dream in 2016 when they purchased their first home together, this original Marin City pole home. But it wasn't without challenges. 60s, the Austin staged major renovations, adding an entire floor and more than 1,000 square feet of space, along with a deck, new floors, a fireplace, and new appliances. Then they got it appraised.
I read the appraisal. I looked at the number. I was like, this is unbelievable.
The family tells me the appraiser was an older white woman, and the home appraised for $989,000, just $100,000 more than the Austins got it appraised for before they started the work, despite $400,000 in renovations.
Last year, Indianapolis native Carlette Duffy set out to buy her grandmother's house. Her plan? Refinance her own home to purchase the property.
I did the application process. When they asked, for, do you want to declare, race and gender, nationality? I did all of that. Said, yeah, no problem.
Duffy expected her home, which she bought for $100,000 3 years earlier, to appraise for around $185,000.
I was shocked. That it came back at $125,000. And so I challenged it.
But the appraiser stood by his decision, and the lender didn't budge. So Duffy moved on, going through the process again, this time with Freedom Mortgage. The value placed on her home was even more staggering.
It's $110,000, $15,000 less than the first one, which is less than 3 months earlier.
Duffy again challenged the appraisal to no avail. Duffy applied again through a new lender. This time, she didn't disclose her race or gender in the application process, only communicated with the appraiser via email, and that wasn't all.
I took all of these down so that they wouldn't be seeing my lovely ladies. I took them down. Right before we got to the appraisal portion, I met with two of my girlfriends. Both are married to white men, and I was like, okay, I need to borrow one of y'all husbands.
When the third appraiser came, Duffy was gone. Her friend's husband posed as her brother.
So I was a bit skeptical at first until we saw the results.
The result? Duffy's home was appraised for $259,000, more than...
It's like a soundtrack. You can hit a wave.
A few years into their new home, the Howards wanted to do renovations and got an appraisal to refinance. Howard says the appraiser was white, based out of the north suburbs. The Howards' home is in the South Shore neighborhood of Chicago, a predominantly African-American neighborhood. The appraisal seemed low. The lender approved a second one. This time, the appraiser was African-American. After disputing the appraisal for $450,000, Howard got a second appraisal a month later. They came in at $563,000, $113,000 more. A recent analysis of the property appraisal industry nationally included an estimate that homes in majority black neighborhoods were undervalued by $48,000 per home on average. The analysis also points to the impact on generational wealth, as homeownership is considered the cornerstone of wealth. 29.9% of white families left inheritance, while only 10.1% of African American families left inheritance.
If each individual From the outside, this is a beautiful home here in Ortega. 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, sitting on almost a ½ acre of space. But the family says that they were judged harshly for the contents on the inside. Abena Horton has lived with her family at this home for 3 years. She and her husband wanted to get the house appraised. The appraiser gave the home a value of $330,000, significantly lower than neighboring houses. So Horton conducted an experiment. She says she took down all family pictures with black relatives and pictures of African-American greats. She even took her Toni Morrison books off of her bookshelf. Horton and her son left the house during the second viewing, while her husband, who is white, stayed behind. The second appraisal from a different company, $135,000 higher, 40% more than the previous appraised value. Horton says she was heartbroken, but because of previous experience, she knew this had to be done.
WUSA 9 has been leading the way in exposing troubling allegations of home appraisal bias in Prince George's County. In March, we were invited to the White House to hear federal policy changes aimed at enhancing the home appraisal process and ensuring it's fair for underrepresented families. With an update in our series, Appraising Prince George's County.
Hello, everyone.
Dr. Andre Perry, senior fellow at the Brookings Institute, is acutely aware of the impact of alleged home appraisal bias. After our initial reporting last November, more families in Prince George's County came forward with allegations of low appraisals they say didn't make sense. Many believing they were victims of discrimination because they are black homeowners in a majority black neighborhood. Nichelle Shaw is one of them.
Because when I was talking to my friends and my family, I was like, this doesn't sound right to me. I knew in my gut that it was wrong.
She bought her Hyattsville home back in 1999 for $109,000. She refinanced her home several times and told us she never had a problem. That was until 2019. The first appraisal on her home came back at $273,000.
When I got the report back, it was saying stuff like I needed to paint the house, I needed to fix the taps, and really it was working out so I would have to spend about $5,000 to refinance a house I'm staying in.
The report didn't make sense to her. Shaw said the average house, similar to her own, was selling for $300,000 in the neighborhood.
I felt a little foolish because I was like, maybe I don't know. But then when I got the other one and it came back fine, you know, it was okay.
She dropped the bank she was working with and went with another. That report came back at $315,000, an increase of $40,000. It's the examples like this that Dr. Perry says highlights the need for changes in the appraisal industry.
Erica Parker believes this family photo cost her $100,000. In Parker's neighborhood at the time, the average valuation of homes was over $500,000. Suspicious of the amount offered by Paladin Appraisals, Parker and her husband Aaron sought another appraisal from a different appraiser.
Right here on that picture wall.
This time, stripping all references to their blackness and asking their white realtor to act as the homeowner.
As I was walking around the house taking things down, I started tearing. I was crying because I just did not want to have to explain to my daughter that we were discriminated against.
The whitewashed appraisal amount, $557,000, nearly $100,000 more.
Who do I call? Who do I fight? How do I hold them accountable for this?
Parker filed a complaint that's pending with the Ohio Department of Commerce against the appraiser, and a complaint with the Department of Housing and Urban Development still investigating. Their original appraiser, Thomas Bornman, and his company Paladin Appraisals declined to comment. His attorney saying in part, quote, his appraisal conformed to the proper analysis. The notion that race was a factor in his analysis is simply wrong. The mortgage company that hired and backed Bornman, Fairway Independent, telling NBC News the appraisal performed by a, quote, licensed, independent, unaffiliated appraiser was complete, accurate, and contained no indicia of discrimination. Adding that the company requested a separate appraisal company to review the original appraisal and confirm the results were, quote, appropriate and legitimate. But the Parkers disagree, also citing similar stories of alleged appraisal discrimination gaining national attention.
Same home, same neighborhood. The only difference was the race of the person who the appraiser believed to own the home.
A 2022 study of racial bias in home appraisals conducted by nonprofit National Community Reinvestment Coalition found the row house for a Baltimore area interracial couple valued at $350,000 when an appraiser only met the white partner, while the black partner received a lower valuation of $310,000.
That's